So Benjamin Netanyahu sat down for an interview with Patrick Bet-David. And first of all, let me just say, I find it hilarious that anybody at this late date could interview Netanyahu and then be shocked that there's negative backlash. And that's what happened with Patrick Bet-David. I saw him talking about like, oh, maybe one side of the debate will accuse you of being funded by Qatar, but the other side of the debate say they want to kill you. So basically what he's saying is pro-Palestine people want to kill you if you talk to Benjamin Netanyahu. But the fact of the matter, Patrick, is this man is doing a genocide. He's the modern day Hitler. And so people see you interviewing him. And if you're doing anything other than like verbally berating him aggressively, you're going to basically come across like you're doing genocide apologia. Because you kind of are. So, people are going to be furious for a reason. I mean, the actual death toll is at least 300,000 people, and they don't want to see anybody sit down and play fucking patty cakes with this guy. You had the Nelk idiots humiliate themselves, giving him a softball interview. Then you had the trigonometry dipshits do a similar... Trigonometry, I can't get over how stupid that is. They do a similar thing, right? And so Patrick Bet-David has him on now. Let me show you a part of the interview, which surprised me. I must say, this was actually surprising to me, and I'm curious what you guys think of it, because I'm going to give you what Netanyahu says here about what it was like working with Biden. Then I'm going to give you a new interview that just came out where the Biden administration officials who were around him on this issue were saying something totally different. Okay, so here we go. Let's watch this.
Do you think President Trump is the type of a man that you can get anything you want and make him do what he wants? I don't think President Trump is. But I do think Biden and others are. So the whole criticism of the fact that Israel, whatever they want, they can call America and have favors being done, I would agree with you on Trump, but with Biden. So maybe a question that I don't think has been asked yet. Putin was asked 2 weeks ago if the war between Ukraine and Russia would have happened under Trump. He said, no, it wouldn't have happened. So for you, would the war and the Hamas attack have happened if President Trump was president instead of Biden?
I don't know. It's a good question, but you said something about Biden that I should just point out the facts. In fact, President Biden supported us in the beginning of the war after this horrific massacre, and he came here, and I very much appreciate it. But as the war progressed and the vilifications of Israel, the distortions on the media began to pile on.
As the war progressed and the vilifications in the media piled on. No, as the war progressed and you killed more and more women and more children and more innocent men and bombed more and more hospitals and more schools and more UN buildings, that's what actually happened. He's like, oh, he believed the facts that the media was saying. How dare he? Wait for it. This gets interesting.
He began to take a different course. And when we were just 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way in Gaza, I said we have to go into that last position that they had where they had organized battalions. It's in a city called Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. And he said, don't go there. And he said, if you do go there, I'll smack an embargo on you.
Ooh, what? Now we're talking, homie. Now we're talking.
3/4 of the way in Gaza, I said we have to go into that last position that they had where they had organized battalions. It's in a city called Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip.
By the way, that's a lie. There weren't This was like all the people there were completely innocent civilians desperately looking for anywhere to be safe, because what Israel would do is they'd say, okay, this place is a safe haven. Then you'd go to that safe haven and they would bomb you. So the idea, they were organized Hamas battalions, that's bullshit.
And he said, don't go there. And he said, if you do go there, I'll smack an embargo on you. Now, you're fighting a seven-front war, and all of a sudden you're slapped with an embargo.
Who put this seven-front war on us? How dare they do that? Bitch, you did that. You can't be... can you believe this? I'm in the midst of a seven-front war. Yeah, you started all them shits. That's all you, homie. What the fuck? Who does that? Who does... okay, so you started bombing the shit out of Yemen. You started bombing the shit out of Lebanon. You started bombing the shit out of Syria. You attacked in Gaza. You are taking over the West Bank right now. I'm at 5. Who am I missing? Iran. That's 6. He's like, man, why are we in the midst of all these wars? Because you fucking started them. Holy shit. Oh my God. This man is the most dishonest man on the planet.
And I said to President Biden, who I've known for many years, I respect the fact you're the president of the United States, but I'm the prime minister of the one and only Jewish state. And we've been fighting to survive in our small place under the sun. It's been a battle that has been going on for 3,500 years. So I'll have to do what we have to do. And then a few days later, Tony Blinken, who was the Secretary of State, came to Israel, and he said, you know, the president is serious about this embargo. And I said, Tony, I know it's serious because you stopped all the weapons. You slow walked them before, but now you've stopped them.
This is such bullshit. That didn't happen. They didn't stop the weapons. This is complete nonsense. The strongest thing that Biden did is he stopped sending the 2,000-pound bombs because they were dropping them in residential areas and killing massive numbers of civilians, right, with just those bombs. The 2,000-pound bombs were bigger bombs than we used in Fallujah in Iraq, and the reason we didn't use them is because we realized you're going to kill a lot of civilians if you use these, right? So that's all he did. He cut those off, and here's Netanyahu crying and whining and acting like Biden shut down all the weapon sales. This is just a lie.
And then I said to him this. He said, well, how are you going to do it then? I said, Tony, we'll fight with our fingernails if we have to.
Oh, tough guy. Tough guy fucking from the comfort of your fucking presidential palace in Israel as, you know, innocent kids are starving to death. You're real tough.
It's like the Allies would leave a quarter of the German battalions in place and not go into Berlin. And I said, would you take that? Would you take that, Patrick? Of course you would. So we didn't take it either. We did it against the opposition of the American president. So much for Israel controlling the United States. We don't. But we do seek to control our destiny. And when somebody commits a crime like they did on October 7th, decapitating our men, raping our women and then murdering them, burning children alive in front of their parents.
A lot of this is fake, by the way.
Taking 255 hostages, grandmothers with their grandchildren, this horror, and pledged to do it again and again and again. Well, what choice?
Meanwhile, who's actually doing the October 7th day after day after day after day? How many? If there's 300,000 dead Palestinians and there's about 1,000 dead Israelis from October 7th, you do the math on that. There's way more October 7ths on one side.
We have to fight them and their Iranian patrons, and we did just that. We did that first.
Bringing in, talking about Iran too.
With American help, then with American opposition, and when President Trump came in with great American help, which I truly appreciate.
So he literally says, with Biden, it was American opposition to what we were doing. So, according to Netanyahu, you have Biden threaten to embargo Israel over what they were doing in Gaza. Right? I wish that were true. It's not. It's not. Then he says, oh, they really started slow walk. He said they shut the weapons down. Then he goes, oh, no, they were slow walking the weapons. I don't think that's true either. I've seen no evidence of that whatsoever, right? And then, so he says this is at the same time this came out, y'all. So this is an interview in the New Yorker. How former Biden officials defend their Gaza policy. The former president's support for Israel abetted a humanitarian catastrophe, but Jacob Lew, who served as U.S. ambassador to the country, still thinks the Trump White House could learn from its predecessor. Okay, ready? So listen to this back and forth. When you would call them in the middle of the night and say, what on earth happened? What was usually the answer? The general pattern was that in the moment stories were inaccurate and that the Israeli military and government establishment were not in position to fully explain yet. We could almost never get answers that explained what happened before the story was fully framed in international media. And then when the facts were fully developed, it turned out that the casualties were much lower. The number of civilians was much lower. And in many cases, the children were children of Hamas fighters, not children taking cover in places. And then the interviewer goes, sorry, what did you say? In many cases, the original number of casualties. No, I mean the thing about who the children were. They were the children of the fighters themselves. And therefore, what follows from that? What follows from that, whether or not it was a legitimate military target, flows from the population that's there. Hold on, Mr. Secretary. That's not, in fact, correct, right? Whether it's a legitimate target has to do with all kinds of things like proportionality. It doesn't matter if the kids are the kids of, then he gets cut off. If you're in a command and control center, that's different than if it's a school that's emptied out and innocent civilians are taking shelter there. If you're the command of a Hamas unit and you bring your family to a military site, that's different. I'm not saying everything fits into that. And I'm not saying it's not a tragedy. So, in other words, the U.S. ambassador to Israel under Biden, Jacob Lew, is saying here, oh, when all these stories would come out of all these innocent civilians being killed, the Israelis would tell us, well, hold on now, let's gather all the facts. And then, well, we'd learn like a day later, like, oh, maybe the casualty rate was a little lower. And then we'd learn if they killed children, it's okay because they were Hamas children. They were the children of Hamas fighters. So that's okay. It's okay to kill those children. So I need you to stop and think about this. Biden basically gave Israel everything they wanted every step of the way. They gave them all the money. They gave them all the weapons. There was only a temporary period where they cut off the 2,000-pound bombs and they had a moratorium on the 2,000-pound bombs. That's the extent of the pushback from Biden and the Democrats, is can't use those 2,000-pound bombs. All they do is kill civilians, but you can have the rest of the money. You can have the rest of the weapons and, go ahead. And he said, oh, don't make the same mistakes we made after 9/11 doing the Iraq war. You don't make those same kind of mistakes in Gaza. But then they proceeded to mass murder everybody in sight, commit war crime after war crime, do a genocide and ethnic cleansing, and Biden did nothing to really hold them back or stop them. Here's what the people around Biden controlling Israel policy were saying. Oh, those were just Hamas kids that they killed, so it's okay. So even when you have Democrats giving Israel everything they fucking want, look at how Netanyahu talks about the Democrats and about Biden. Look at how he talks about them. He talks about them like, oh, they were holding us back and they actually were the opposition and they threatened to embargo us and they're against Israel and all these fucking things. So if Israel, from a moral perspective, we should be pro-Palestine and anti-Israel and anti-genocide. But even from just a raw political perspective, why would you, if they're always going to portray you as being your opponent, as fucking you over, as not giving them everything they want, and if they're always going to run into the loving arms of Trump and the Republicans, why wouldn't you just do the right thing? Again, for moral reasons, you should stop arming and funding the genocidal new Nazi state, the terror state that is Israel. But even if you don't give a fuck about morality and you're a raw political actor, why would you not look at this and say, well, clearly we gave them 99% of what they wanted, and they took that 1% disagreement and stabbed us in the back over it and made it seem like we were the enemies of Israel or whatever the fuck. Why wouldn't we just do the right thing then and say, you know what? We are going to cut off the money. We are going to cut off the weapons. We are going to condemn you at the UN. We are going to arrest Netanyahu. We are going to arrest Ben-Gvir. We are going to arrest Smotrich. We are going to force a peace deal on you. We are going to recognize a Palestinian state. We are going to hold you accountable for all of your war crimes. We are going to uphold international law and make sure it's not a joke in the eyes of people now because of your actions, Israel. So it is just disturbing, bro. It is just disturbing that Biden can give them 99% of what they want, and he was fucking wrong to do that, by the way. He shouldn't have been arming and funding a genocide. But he gives them nearly everything they want, and then he still stabs the Democrats in the back, stabs Biden in the back, runs into the loving arms of Republicans, and Democrats sit there with their thumbs up their asses looking like fucking idiots. And then what? You going to do the same thing now? Are Democratic politicians going to still try to do the same thing now? Given this, they hate you. They don't like you. They don't, and you shouldn't like them. I know you take the AIPAC money. I know you take the Israel lobby money. I know a lot of you are ideologically Zionist. Wakey, bro. It's over. It's done. Netanyahu is effectively a partisan Republican on top of being a genocidal maniac and bloodthirsty freak. Wake up to that reality and adjust accordingly. If not for the sake of the 300,000 dead Palestinians and the genocide and the ethnic cleansing going on right in front of your fucking eyes, if not for that, for raw political motivations, because they're never going to side with you, they're never going to agree with you, they're always going to back your opponents, and you're going to stand there looking like a fucking idiot because you are one. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.